Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So today we're going to have a look at those handicap mark changes that I've highlighted on my Twitter thread, and just go through them a bit more and more in detail. Obviously, I can only put 280 characters in the tweets or exeats or whatever they're now called on Twitter. So the first one is of the Sea, who's dropped a pound down to 91 now. Now, he ran okay, to be fair to him, at Ascot. He wasn't beaten miles. He was beaten 7 lengths by the very man. In fourth, he was behind Berkshire Rocker, the Grand Vizier, and Roar of the Sea. And if you actually watch the race, I think Yao Moreira kind of got it a bit wrong after pulling really hard for most of the race, similar to what he did at Chester in the Chester Cup. He then didn't pick up as quickly as I think Yao Moreira was expecting. And I just wonder whether getting his usual jockeys back on board. Interestingly, I say usual jockeys. I'm just having a look at his. This is crazy, to be honest. Let's have a look at this here. Benoit, Frankie. Okay, from here, Frankie, James Doyle, Robert Havlin, Benoit, Franny, William, David, Richard, Jim, Yao. Not one jockey has had another go on him. You know, Benoit's had 3, Kieran 1. All of these jockeys have had one go. I'm surprised that Ian hasn't booked the same jockey. The jockey will get to know the horse a little bit, know what the horse wants, and maybe that's what could get a win into Law of the Sea, is a repeat of a jockey, just so he gets an understanding of the horse, to be honest. But anyway, back to what I was saying. He finished 4th. He wasn't beaten miles by the very man, Berkshire Rocker and the Grand Vizier. He didn't pick up as strongly as I think Connections would have hoped or thought, and the jockey. It was the Shergar Cup, which can often throw up races where the jockeys are actually the reasons for the defeats. And I think now they've got to go for this race here. Let's just wait for it to load. They have got to go for this Watergate Cup. I mean, last year it was worth 51 grand to win it. It's good prize money. The Chester Cup this year was only actually worth 76 to win. And to be honest, I think Law of the Sea, I think I would aim him at both. I would try and win the Watergate Cup and then go and win the Chester Cup next season. You know, literally run once, don't run him again, and then return for the Watergate Cup. Win this one here, don't run him again, and return for the Chester Cup next season. The other thing that caught my eye was at Haydock when he finished 2nd to Solent Gateway, 4th at Chester, and 4th at Ascot. He was wearing tongue ties. They then put cheek pieces on, and he ran, really poorly in both. You can see he finished 18th and 12th with cheek pieces on. They then took both off for Royal Ascot. Wait till they put the tongue tie back on, but leave the cheek pieces off. I just wonder whether we might see a bit of a better performance from him, and maybe that's when they're going for it. So it'd be interesting to see if he returns to Chester in the Watergate Cup with the tongue tie applied again. The second horse, I did say the Watergate Cup. The second horse that I'd also like to see return for that race is the Grand Vizier. And when I say that race, I mean the Watergate Cup. So the Grand Vizier has now dropped another pound to 93, and he's obviously getting very, very well handicapped. Previously rated as high as 106 on the flat. He's dropped a lot this season, but he's not been running badly. I mean, his 5th at Goodwood was a good effort. His 2nd at Ascot in the Queen Alexandra Stakes. He's also finished 3rd at Ascot in the Shergar Cup. They were good runs. They've just not quite worked out. I think he wants further than 2 mile personally, but I don't think he wanted the really heavy going that he encountered at Goodwood. And also, he was kind of given a bit too much to do by Richard Kingscote that day. I think over 2.5 mile and in a handicap, I think he can go very close again. Don't forget, his run this season at Chester in the Chester Cup came a year after his previous one. He went from the 2022 Chester Cup to the 2023 Chester Cup. So you can almost forgive him that run when he was 9th off a mark of 97. Well, he's now down to a mark of 93. So he's £4 lower. And I think that the Watergate Cup is the ideal one for him. I kind of feel it's more... I'd be more... if I was just picking one to go for that, you've got to go with the Grand Vizier because he's a 9-year-old. It's not like you can plan him to win the Chester Cup next season as a 10-year-old. That's not something you can be doing, but you could be doing it with Law of the Sea, who's only a 5-year-old and would be 6 next year, obviously. The Grand Vizier needs to be running in all the right races. And obviously he does have some Chester form when he was second in the Chester Cup back... Where is it? I'm sure he was second. Here it is. He was second in 2021 when he was beaten 2 lengths by Falcon 8. You know, go back to there, course and distance. He actually ran that day off 103. He's now down to 93. So, yeah, I think Ian Williams will run both of these in the Watergate Cup. And I think both would run big races, to be fair, to them off their new handicap marks. So they are definitely ones I'm looking out for with the Watergate Cup in mind. The third horse that caught my eye was Escobar, who has dropped £2 to a mark of 100. Now, he didn't run great at Ascot in the Shargo Cup Mile. He did only go off 13-2, which was very interesting because he'd gone off 40s, 20s, 28s, 14s, 12s, 10s in his last few runs. Kind of suggesting that maybe Connections thought he would go a bit better than he did. He ran disappointingly. He was only 8th of 10. Safi Osborne could never get going, really. They were slowly away, never got involved. However, this time of year is when he seems to come to life, particularly last year. If we look at his form last year at this time of year, he finished 2nd at York. He finished 3rd at Goodwood. He finished 3rd at Sandown. He disappointed at Ayr when they dropped him to 6, which didn't suit. And then he went back up to 7 and won at Ascot. So if we actually take out the run that didn't suit over 6... he finished 2nd, 3rd, 1st this time of year, last year, off marks of 2nd, 3rd, 105, 109, 105 and 107. Well, as I said, he's now running off a mark of 100, or will be running off a mark of 100. So where do you go with him? Well, surely this race. The Clipper Logistics, great prize money, nearly 65 grand for it. It's in a few days' time, or next week sometime. Traded 1.33 in the run, got beat ahead. Surely that's where they go with him. And to be honest, I think he would run a really big race. He does have some course form at York, including that run. He's also had a couple of other good efforts. You can see back here in 2022 he won the race, or he won a race in May. So he does have some York form as well. So I would be confident that that's where he goes. And also, I think he can run a really big race now. This is his time of year. This is his trip. This is his course. And yeah, with a big field and it's all about getting that blindfold off and getting him into stride quickly enough so that he can then be finishing his race off strongly. The next horse that caught my eye a little bit was Lethal Levi, who dropped £2 to 96. Now, interestingly, he was really well supported last time out at Newmarket when we liked him. We hoped that the 7 furlong trip would suit. It maybe didn't. Also, being stuck out on the wing might not have suited, and Brandon didn't really get him involved in the race. He did get a little bit cut up late on by, I think it was by the winner. No, it wasn't. It was by Parlando, wasn't it? The Ian Williams trained horse. But I don't think that, that made no difference to his finishing position, really. So what would I do? You can see all of his form had been over 6. He stepped up to 7 and it didn't work. We'll drop him back to 6. Drop him back to 6 for this Skybet Constantine handicap. At York. Why? Well, 2 runs ago he ran at York. He got beat by Aberama Gold, Manila Scouse, the Green Man, Summergand. I believe Summergand could certainly go and win this race, and he will be one of my selections for this race if he turns up. I really like him. Aberama Gold obviously went and won the Goodwood Stewards Cup. Manila Scouse has come out and won twice since. The Green Man's not come out yet, and Summergand obviously was withdrawn at the start for the Stewards Cup, but I think he will run a really big race. But with that in mind, the fact that Summergand will be running off the same mark, Manila Scouse would be off higher, Aberama Gold would now be off higher. Silver Samurai has kindly, because of the way the races have been run, he's now dropped £3 since finishing a decent 5th when sent off the 6-1 favourite for a race that has worked out really well. You turn back up this race, in this race, over 6 at York, same course and distance. you've got to think he's going to go really close for Colback. You know, he actually finished 6th in this last year off 99. He would be running off 96, so £3 lower. He was only beaten 2.5 lengths or 2.25 lengths that day. I think he would go very, very close if he was to turn up. 2 more to go. First, Folio, who has dropped to... he's dropped 3 to 94. And the handicap is starting to give this horse real chances, to be honest. First Folio also featured in that race at Newmarket when stepped back up to 7 furlongs. It didn't work. He seemed to be up there and then get outpaced, but I don't think he wants further. What do you do with him? I've kind of found a race for him that I think would give him a chance, in that I think he's got some decent form at York with a win back in 2021, and he also finished 4th behind Bergerac, who, if Bergerac turns up for the handicap that he ran in, I think he could go well. So he's finished 1st and 4th in handicaps at York, over 6 furlongs. And then 3 runs ago, he actually disappointed a bit. He finished 16th. But you can see he went off 6 to 1, suggesting they thought he would run really well at York. And I kind of want to forgive him that run at York. And I think he could come back here and be a much too big a price for a horse that does have some good form at York. His win at York in a handicap was a decent effort. You know, beating 16 other rivals, so demonstrating that he can certainly win big handicaps. And then he's 4th. The 4th came over. There was 12, so he beat 8 other runners. Is that 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, he beat 8 runners. So if he turned up in something like this as well, you could have Lethal Levi, First Folio, and Summergand all competing here. I think if I was to pick out of those, I would still be keen on Summergand and Summergand and Lethal Levi. But we know what trainers are like. They always seem to run horses in races that don't suit. And it's very likely that one of those turns up in a 7 furlong race at Doncaster the week before. They've got absolutely no form there. But they try him there for some bizarre reason. So if First Folio turns up in this race, I would also be certainly looking at him next week. The final horse that I want to talk about is Tis Marvellous, who dropped £4 to 98. Now, the handicapper has really given him a chance. In June of 2022, so not that long ago, he was rated 112, before then going to Beverley, winning a Beverley Bullet, and that's kind of where I think they might go with him next. Back to Beverley for this race that they won in 2021 and 2022. I think they'll go there. If they don't, though, and they think, well, he's 9... he's getting on, maybe it's not good and he's not good enough to win a listed race, I wonder if they might look at this handicap. It's back at Ascot, where he does have some good form. We know he's obviously won a Dubai Duty Free Shogun Cup Dash before. He's won a Heritage Handicap there. He's won 2 dashes in actual fact, and he's won a listed race at Ascot. But the thing about this race is it's for horses rated 0 to 98. Now he is rated 98 now, so that means he would be right at the top of the handicap, and taking on lesser rivals. Now, he doesn't often do that. Even at the weekend, he was taking on horses rated, 96 to 105. If he ran in a 0 to 98, I'd be very surprised if there was more than 2 rated 96, himself and one other. I think we might find that this would be a significant drop in class for him if he was to run in this race at Ascot. I mean, the time before that, he was running in a Wokingham. Horses rated 95 to 110. He just needs a drop in class. And I just wonder whether running at Beverley, he won't get that drop in class. I know he's won there before, but he won't get a drop in class. And if he is regressing, which he clearly is, maybe he may find a couple too good for him, or a couple still in form or on their way up the rankings. Whereas Tis Marvellous, I think, should run in a race where he can take on those who aren't as good as him at Ascot in beginning of September, so a couple of weeks' time. So they're my extra thoughts for the handicap analysis horses. Law of the Sea and the Grand Vizier, I think both should run in the Watergate Cup, particularly the Grand Vizier. Escobar, he's obviously likes this time of year. He was second in the Clipper Logistics last year, off a mark much higher than this, and I think he would go well if you ran in it again. Lethal Levi needs to go back to York for that 6 furlong handicap. His form last time over 6 at York has worked out really well. First Folio could also turn up there. That would give him a chance. And Tis Marvellous, I think, should drop in class and run at Ascot in a 0-98 handicap rather than sticking to the Beverley Bullet, which I think will be too good. There'll be horses in there now that are too good for him.